Hey, this is Matt from Custom Car Grills with a tutorial on how to shave down a stock grill to reveal previously solid areas. The grill I'm using for this demonstration is a 2013 Boss 302 Mustang grill that was sent in by a customer. They were looking to hollow out specific parts to replicate the look of a grill that's now discontinued. If we flip this one around, you can see that the owner already marked out the areas that they want to have shaved down. There's a few different approaches we can try, but I'm not sure how hard or soft this plastic is going to be. Just so that I don't go overboard, I'm going to get out my mini belt sander, otherwise known as a Bandfile. I've got this equipped with a 3M Cubitron belt of the 36 grit variety, and let's dive right into the lower driver's side. On this initial sanding, I just want to get a feel for how the plastic is going to react. Some harder plastics can shave off easily without much plastic staying behind on the grill. Others, like this one, seem to be at a lower melting point, and we're going to have some areas that will end up being ooey and gooey. Let's crank up the speed on the Bandfile and go down on the spot that we're already in. It's important to note that there are some mounting tabs for the grill to clip back into the bumper, and we're not going to be sanding those down. We need them to stay exactly where they are. As I'm nearing closer to breaking through the opening, you might start to see a heat pattern in the plastic. The solid honeycomb walls will usually continue to be a lighter color, whereas the center of the cell will look a little bit darker. If you start to get some burnt on plastic buildup, it's probably best to clear that out by cutting it off with a knife, like so. As I'm nearing the front of the solid part, you'll likely hear the plastic become a little bit higher pitched than before. Depending on how warm the plastic is and how much sanding is left, it might be possible to pick the solid part out at this point. There's still some residual spots that need a little refinement, so I'll go back in for some light sanding in that area. Surrounding hexagons will be getting lightly sanded as well, and that's fine as we want to blend in any mismatched depths anyway. Having a small hook that doesn't have a pointed end can help with pulling out any small bits that are stuck in the corners. Just a few more passes and I think this section will be good to go. Okay, let's just do a quick check from the front to see if we're on the right track. For the most part, this looks good, but there's some cleanup needed to really make it look great. I'll grab my Xacto knife and trim off some of the big, bulky, burnt plastic first. Then it's time to operate on these hexagons. With just the tip of the sharp blade, I can precisely trim out the excess. Let me show you what this looks like from the front, too. Again, I'm only using the very tip of this blade, and I'm not digging into the plastic very hard, just enough to catch the unwanted plastic and trim it off. Also to note, we are going to be using this technique a lot throughout this whole grill. Be sure to have a party pack of blades out. Dull ones won't work well. Now that I know how the Bandfile worked, I think I'll move on to a different tool that I think will work a little bit more efficiently. Behold, a 3-inch cordless grinder with a 36 grit disc. Okay, wow, this thing is ripping through the plastic like crazy. A couple things to note though if you do decide to go this route, and one is that the plastic is going to get really hot. So much so that you want to be very careful and not to touch it if it still looks gooey. The other thing to note is that you don't want to get this so hot that it melts any part of the front of the grill. And I'd like to think that this goes without saying, but behind the scenes I am wearing some safety glasses, and that's for good reason. Because any of this melted plastic in or around your eyes is going to be a really bad time, so make sure that you have on proper protective equipment for this. Once I get to the point of being able to pop out a hexagon, then I'll go back in for a few more passes to even everything out. A nice little combination of tools that I found was that the grinder can do the bulk of the removal, and then the Bandfile can really help hone in the finer areas better. Doing the big hexagons is pretty straightforward, but geez, these smaller ones on the edge seem to take a lot more effort for some odd reason. After the sanding, let's get the Xacto knife back out and do some more trimming. Doing only a handful on camera makes this step not look so bad, but this is honestly where you'll likely end up spending most of your time because there's a lot of surface to cover. Another tool that can be needed for a job like this will be the Dremel, and I've equipped it with their number 543 cutting and shaping wheel. These tabs in the corner prevent both the grinder and the Bandfile from getting in the area properly. It's important to find just the right angle of approach to cut out the area that you want while not cutting off the tab that's going to be going back into the bumper. For the spots in the center of the grill where there's a tab, I found that using the grinder worked best. You can get behind the tab, but it's super important not to grind against the tab, because you'll eventually wear it down and break it off in the process. Try to stay somewhere between a 32nd and a 16th of an inch away from the tab for best results. Just like before, once it's worn down enough, then simply pop out the solid part of the hexagon and then get back in there with the knife to clean it up. After about 4 hours, I have most of this all finished up. All the hexagons are cut out and I have most of it cleaned up. There's a little bit of refinement still, so let me finish that up, and now here's how mine turned out. This thing is looking exactly like the Boss 302 grill that was discontinued years ago. Once some woven wires added to the light cutouts, it's going to be an exact match. From the front, this is precisely what my customer is looking for. There's just the smallest of fuzz left and a pinch of light discoloration in some areas. An easy trick to fix both of these is to use a small butane torch. Some quick passes on the back can zap out the fuzzies in no time. Restoring the discoloration can take a little bit more finesse. We want the plastic to get hot enough to darken up and gloss out again if possible, but you can't get it so hot that you actually melt or deform it. There's kind of a fine balance with this technique, and you're best off practicing on some scraps beforehand. Well, here's my final product. This looks about as legit as possible. I don't yet have any pictures of it on the car, but the customer did send in a picture of it on the bumper while he worked on other components this winter. All of the hexagons are looking OEM fresh, and no one will ever know that the top and bottom rows were ever solid. I hope you liked this video, and if you can subscribe to the channel, then that will greatly help me out. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments below or email me, and thanks for watching.